Hey guys, so over the weekend I did a local game jam here and I just want to make a video showing the process and what we came up with. So I joined a group of 3 other guys and their name will pop up in the credits here. But this is the game. The theme of the jam was parallel worlds. So we came up with an idea that we were going to do kind of a spirit fish and a spirit bird, and they're above each other. And what can happen here is the bird can dive under the water and the fish can hold them to help them avoid obstacles in the sky, and vice versa. The fish can jump out of the water and the bird will carry him and they can avoid obstacles. So it's not so much a game as more of kind of a story. There's no win, there's no lose. It's just this. So basically you go through, you do this, and all the music was composed by our group members, and all the art, except we used the buildings, water, and background were assets that we got. But everything else we did ourselves. So here's the poster from the jam. It's called PegJam. It's in Winnipeg, and it's just a local group. Everybody gets together, and I think it usually happens about once a year that we actually do an on-site game jam here. So these were the speakers we had. They were pretty awesome. So most of them were just local groups. One guy's from Ubisoft. He's a veteran local jammer. I think he said he's been to 15 jams and submitted games every time. And yeah, everybody else just local Winnipeggers and talking about how they got started in the industry. Their talks were great. So this was the start. We just kind of started it like a basic endless runner side scroller kind of game. Basically locked it so the players would be locked into the camera space, and then slowly just started making it. If they go over the center of the screen, they would do their dive mechanic and be pushed back down or back up. Then at this point I just kind of made a little line just to simulate the water, and then we started testing. This is our group where we were set up. We occupied this little table in the corner here, and there was 4 of us. And this is just kind of us play testing as we're progressing through. So here's, this is basically where we started adding music to it and testing out the mechanic where you could grab the other player. So we're just kind of holding on to them and bouncing in and out of the water here. As well, we started testing adding the music. This was all made by Dan from our group here. He composed all the tracks. Everything merged into one. And then this is all the setup for the controllers. So this is the first time I made a game with 2 controllers, so I had to do a lot of looking up how to get the proper input buttons and setting up a custom input manager. So that took quite a bit of time, but now I know how to do it for next time. And this is Kyle doing, basically he made up a 3D model of the fish, and then he converted the whole model to be a particle system. So to look up the water idea, I kind of took it from Thomas Was Alone, so I just started Googling some videos to see how other people did it, and this is what we came up with here using a water asset from the asset store. This is a concept we didn't have enough time to actually implement it, but what we wanted to do was have barricades that blocked, so you had to grab the other player to bring them up or under the barricades. And the concept was going to be that the bird and the fish had kind of a flock of followers following them, and then if you didn't dodge one of the obstacles, you would lose some of your flock, and it would just kind of degrade over time, where it would just be you standing alone. Again, this is our table. It's showing all of us. I'm the one with the headphones, and then there's Kyle to the left of me, then Cam, then Dan. And yeah, just showing kind of how the play space looks. Other than that, most of this is pretty common, but we went in. Here we started implementing, just kind of working with some graphics and background textures. More or less at this point we started trying to actually add in the models and making it look nice instead of just placeholder art. Here we're starting to add some clouds in, and we tried doing like a parallax effect with the clouds, so there'd be multiple layers of clouds and they're all moving at different times to kind of simulate depth, we went with a 2D camera for everything instead of a 3D. So it had pros and cons, and here we're starting to implement in the actual particle system model of the fish, which looks pretty awesome. And yeah, just testing still some placeholder particle systems for a splash and everything. So at this point here, we actually added in the bird particle system. He doesn't have a flap animation yet, but once that's in, that looked really cool. But we were just playing with it. This is the first time our artist ever dabbled with any of this too, so it took a lot of practice. Same with here, we're starting to add 3D buildings in and kind of playing around how we can make the depth look proper so it doesn't look out of place in the world. So a lot of it was just trial and error. Most of us don't really work with 3D very much. We're more 2D artists. So we kind of took on a lot of challenges, and we came across a lot of problems and bugs that delayed time. And as typical games, we always overscoped it and had to cut everything back. So this is Cam just kind of laying out a city here. And the way we shared everything during the jam was just through Discord. So we were just sending everything back and forth to each other through there. While I was doing all the programming, they were finding tons of art assets. Like here, they found a group of rock assets. So we started building kind of almost like a reef barricade for when you start. And then the rocks kind of dwindle out and then go into a city kind of landscape there. So it's just a quick little video showing how we placed everything and built the level. More or less it was just a couple of rocks, and we just resized them, reshaped them, changed the direction, made them all look kind of unique. And then here we actually added kind of a city backdrop, and we also did multiple layers on that to kind of parallax it as well, just so it looks like it's moving slower than everything else. And this is almost the final game here. So, like I said, a lot of things we had to kind of scratch out because we ran out of time, but overall I was pretty happy with it. So here's the game here playing. There's our credits. And then it's about to start here. Yeah, so this is the final game. So the one thing I do want to do is go back, because I only made it input for 2 controllers. I'm going to go back and add some keyboard input. That way we can throw it up on itch and people can actually try it out. So this is kind of just showing the layout and the buildings. We made a few buildings that you actually went inside and passed through. And yeah, hopefully we'll continue it and add some add that barricade effect I was talking about, and kind of complete the game later when we have the time. Here's the building we talked about going in. And the noises you hear here are actually sound effects for when you move the player. Okay, and this is just uploading the game to itch at the end of the jam, and then we included in the group for the game jam. And if anybody doesn't know what itch.io is, it's just a place where you can host games for free. People can go and download and play them, or you can even set it up so they're playable in the web browser. So we have this listed. It's just at itch.io, and you can search for Daybreak Accord. And yeah, that was it. It was a great jam. Here's the page again with all the speakers and the info, and it's hosted by a group called New Media Manitoba, and they put on everything. It was great.